Welcome to the regular meeting of the Multnomah County Board of Commissioners. Audience members, I want to start by asking you to please silence your electronic devices. I would also like to remind you that in addition to the audience in this room, we have people watching and listening online, or will soon, so please consider your language and comments and testimony today. Today's meeting is a hybrid board meeting. Some presenters and guests will appear in person and some will appear virtually. For those presenting virtually, please mute your mic when not speaking, and when presenting, make sure to unmute your mic and turn on your camera. For those joining us in person to provide public testimony or present, please turn your mic on when you begin speaking so the green light is showing, and off when you've completed your remarks so the red light is showing. And for all presenters, please state your name for the record before speaking or responding to questions. May I have a motion on the consent calendar? Commissioner Singleton moves, Commissioner Brim Edwards second. Approval of the consent calendar. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Commissioner Moyer?
We all said aye.
Oh, sorry.
Yes, so the consent calendar is approved. And so can we go to public testimony?
Opportunity for public comment on non-agenda matters. This is a time for the board to hear public testimony, not for board deliberation. When it's your turn to speak, I will call your name and unmute you or call you to the presenters table. I will set a timer for 3 minutes when you begin speaking and announce when your time is up, at which point please wrap up your sentence. We have 5 people signed up for verbal testimony and received 1 written testimony, which was shared with board members and staff. First up, we have Matt Zmuda, Crystal Otero, Jared Essig, and Injured and Pissed Off. Yeah.
Like in school.
Good morning. You can go ahead and begin.
Thank you. Chair Vega-Peterson, Commissioners, my name is Matt Zmuda. I'm the founder of Multnomah, and I'm here today to provide advance notice of our intent to initiate proceedings under Oregon's City-County Act of 1971. Next week, we plan to file a petition with the county clerk to begin gathering signatures. If successful, this would trigger the formation of a 13-member charter commission to study city-county consolidation and, if warranted, draft a proposed charter for voters. This notice is a courtesy and not a legal requirement, and we are not seeking your endorsement today. For some brief context, Multnomah County was created in 1854 because the people living in Portland found it difficult to travel to Hillsborough, which was the seat of Washington County at the time. From the very beginning, this region has been shaped by growth outpacing the structures meant to govern it, and that dynamic continues today. 4 out of 5 residents of Multnomah County now live in Portland. We share the same economy, infrastructure, tax base, and challenges, yet we maintain 2 separate governments with overlapping responsibilities and duplicate administrative systems. Oregon anticipated that this region might eventually need another option. In 1968, voters approved a constitutional amendment narrowly tailored to counties with a city over 300,000 residents, effectively Portland. The legislature codified this in the City-County Act of 1971. The process it establishes is deliberate and democratic. A successful petition does not force consolidation. Rather, it creates a charter commission with representatives from county and city governments and the state legislature. That commission would have up to 2 years to study the issue, gather extensive public input, and draft a charter that addresses both urban and rural needs. Other cities may choose whether to participate. Unincorporated areas receive explicit protections, and consolidation would only occur if voters approve it by a majority vote in both Portland and the county. This effort is not about blame or dissatisfaction with any individual or any institution. It's about asking whether a governmental structure designed in the 19th century still best serves a 21st century region. Other cities, including Nashville, Jacksonville, and Louisville, have chosen consolidation when it made sense for their communities, often to reduce duplication, clarify accountability, and better align services with how people actually live. At its core, this is about giving voters a choice after analysis, public engagement, and a transparent process. Thank you for your time. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Crystal Otero. I live in Multnomah County. I work for the county, but today I'm here representing myself. I wanted to come and just touch briefly on the shelter presentation on the 13th. I thought that, or the board briefing, I really appreciated that, the conversations that are taking place, and I know that you'll be making some really hard decisions this year. And so respectfully, I bring these forward just because I feel strongly about these as a community member. So, you know, in terms of Shelter InReach, we defunded a couple of the InReach programs last year from DCHS, and one of them was the long-term, you know, screening program. It was a mobile outreach team. It was the first team that could go into shelters and screen for whether people are eligible and qualified for long-term care. And I believe last year, they moved like 90 people into long-term care so that's a great outcome, and I thought I wanted to bring that forward. The other thing around Shelter InReach is we did have, and we do have, a behavioral health InReach program that shelter operators and staff can call to come in and help them. And we had to reduce funding from them as well. And there's details to all of that, of course, but I just wanted to point out we have developed some practices and systems that can provide InReach. I think there might be questions about effectiveness and access to those services, but I think review of that would be beneficial. And then finally, like for example, with addiction, we have the PATH outreach team in the behavioral health division. And I think primarily what they do is speak with shelter providers and work to get their clients into treatment. I think there's questions about their outcomes and how they're tracked, but that is a primary role that they play, the addiction part of that team. The other thing I wanted to just touch on is medical respite. And I know that it was not covered in the report, but props, Mama, to the report. It's great. I think it really demonstrates the county's commitment to operating shelter and using tax dollars well. In terms of medical respite, this is a model that has been shown to be really effective to move people into housing. And we have a well-known, nationally known program here, the Recuperative Care Program. And I think, you know, they have like a 70% exit rate to permanent housing.
Thank you.
Oh, shoot.
That's okay, it went off. If you want to provide the rest of your remarks or all of your remarks in a written format and get them to the clerk, we'll make sure that they get distributed to the entire board.
Thank you. I thought, like the city, I had another minute.
Oh, yeah.
I have another 5 minutes, but I'll provide it in writing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Good morning.
Good morning, Chair Vega Peterson and commissioners of the Multnomah County Board. My name is Jared Essig. As an organizer with the Rose City Iron Front, a radical centrist group committed to defending civil liberties and countering political violence from all sides and fostering accountable and transparent governance. I've been a vocal advocate for free speech and human rights here in Portland, and I urge you to stand with the people of Iran today. Our community has a long history of speaking out against injustice, from supporting immigrants' rights to passing a resolution last year calling for a ceasefire in Gaza. Well, the way to have a lasting ceasefire in Gaza, of course, is to end the war against Israel. And as you know, for 20 years now, Iran has been in a Cold War against Israel, funding terror proxies in Lebanon and Gaza, which are now in tatters and destroyed. And after the 12-day war against Israel last year, its economy is in tatters, and the protests recently, that's why I'm calling on the board to to make a statement in support of the ongoing Iranian protests against the regime, which have been brutally suppressed these last couple weeks. These demonstrations represent a powerful grassroots push against authoritarianism. They erupted on December 28th, starting with strikes by Bazari merchants in Tehran's Grand Bazaar over skyrocketing inflation and a currency crisis that saw the rial depreciate precipitously, with soaring prices for food and essentials up to 70%. There's also mass state corruption in the use of state money to support the Revolutionary Guards, controlling industries and businesses. And because of this economic mismanagement and the choice to finance a war against Israel rather than financing water and essentials for their own people, mass protests have spread to over 180 cities across all 31 provinces, involving street marches, rooftop chants, student activism, general strikes. The protesters are not only merchants, but include women, youth, and ethnic minorities like the Kurds and the Baloch. They're demanding, in many cases, an end to systemic corruption, an end to the war against Israel and the proxy armies supported around the regions, and an overthrow of the Islamic Republic. Their chants, like the Mahsa Amini protests in 2020 erupted when Mahsa Amini, a young Iranian woman, was killed for resisting the morality police and refusing to wear a hijab. Their chants like women, life, freedom, now death to the dictator, many of them are chanting, and not Gaza or Lebanon, my life for Iran. I want you to make a statement in solidarity. Look to the example set just yesterday with the Beverly Hills City Council, which passed a resolution expressing solidarity with the Iranian people.
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning.
Yes, injured and happy, that's not my name. My name's injured and pissed off, and I spell pissed off as one word. I looked up on the internet, on Google and Bing, and if you ask or type, who was injured and pissed off before he changed his name? And it comes up with all kinds of weird answers. Sincere Al Sincere and Patrick O'Neill and all kinds of crap, even a Patsy something. Google's kind of weirded out. I don't know so much of Bing that way. The 31st of last year, which was 16 days ago, I ended up having to go to a MRI, and I told the caseworker and the doctor that I had, which I'd also told you, that I had a lifetime ban from that medical building down on the south waterfront right next to the tram. Well, lifetime ain't lifetime apparently, because I guess the state or the county paid the taxi, and of course, well, I told you that I'd been to an ophthalmologist and I've got cataracts in both eyes. They want to remove them, cataracts. And of course, with my being blind, well, it's not going to do a lot, but at least my vision won't go totally black. And with them sending me to a place that I'm not supposed to be going to, that's more of their hanky-panky crap. The wifey white whopper, if people look that up, that's exactly why they closed down the heart transplant up there at OHSU. Just 3 words, wifey white whopper. Scandals like Neil Goldsmith and Sam Adams and Jeff Coogan. Well, injured and pissed off ain't no scandal, apparently. My service animal was attacked 7 times. It's against Oregon law to even interfere with a service animal. The dog was declared dangerous. The dog that was attacking my dog, that was after the 5th dog attack. Nothing was done. Is my time up?
It is. Thank you so much.
Lightning.
Good speech, good speech.
Good morning.
Yes, my name is Lightning. I represent Lightning Super, No Justice, No Peace Lab. I'll be speaking to President Trump today. One of the concerns I have, President Trump, is that I think you're falling asleep behind your desk again, and you're overlooking an opportunity for my good friends, all the UFC fighters through the United States and the world. I really think you're not showing them the respect they deserve. You're going to allow them to fight at Washington, D.C. for the 250th anniversary. And again, what I want to make sure is that they get paid more money than they've ever been paid in their lifetime. And if any of you UFC fighters, even from Team Quest and some of these other locations, you got a problem with that, we can settle it out in the streets. Now, my proposal is this. President Trump is developing the ballroom. That ballroom has a tremendous value to certain corporations, and that's having the naming rights, Facebook, SpaceX. I'm proposing to you, President Trump and Dana White, that you put out a bidding war and let people bid all the way up for the next 3 to 4 months from these big tech companies. And I'd like to see about $500 million put on the table when it's all said and done for these UFC fighters. I think they're amazing athletes. I think they deserve the respect. I think Kayla Harrison is just a phenomenal woman fighter, Olympic gold medalist, phenomenal. And again, my good friend, John Jones, the GOAT, I don't think you're going to have a problem with me either on wanting you to be paid the most money you've ever received in one day. So again, to Elon Musk and also to Mark Zuckerberg, I want you to have a fight that night too. I want you to settle the score. And I know, Mark, you have Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, highly specialized training, and I've watched your videos. But I really think Elon Musk will kick your ass. He's going to drop you down in that cage, and I don't think you'll make it 1 minute with him. And you know what's more interesting is I think you two will be the highest bidders in history for these UFC fighters. In history, payouts, $10 million, $20 million per fight. I expect that to happen, gentlemen, and if any of you UFC fighters have a problem, bring it to the streets in Portland, Oregon, and we'll settle it.
Thank you.
That's all for public testimony, so now we can move on to R1.
Thanks.
Budget modification number DCA-005-26, Library Capital Bond, appropriating revenue from the sale of the Albina Annex property.
May I have a motion? Commissioner Singleton moves, Commissioner Brim Edwards seconds, approval of R1. So good morning. We have Kate and Nancy here to talk a little bit about this property annex before us today. Good morning.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Kate Vance. I am a Deputy Director for the Library Capital Bond Program, and I'm joined today by Nancy Artman, who is the DCA Budget and Finance Director. I'm here today to seek the board's approval on a budget modification brought forward by the Department of County Assets on behalf of the Multnomah County Library Capital Construction Bond Program. If approved, this action will increase the budget appropriation for Fund 2517 in Program Offer 78228F, the Library Capital Bond Program, Albina Library, by $535,000. This increase is necessary to recognize revenue generated from the sale of the Albina Annex property, which was adjacent to the Albina Library. After expenses, including broker commissions, title, escrow charges, and agreed-upon repairs, the Albina Library project will retain a net cash amount of $463,294.50. This is a one-time only adjustment for FY26. Any funds remaining at the end of FY26 will be appropriated as beginning working capital carryover for FY27.
All right, thank you so much. Tasia, do we have any public testimony on this item?
Yes, Lightning.
All right, so if you don't mind stepping back, we'll bring you forward to see if there are any questions later.
Yes, my name is Lightning. I represent Lightning Super, We the People Lab. One of the concerns I have on this sale is that I wanted to have a clear understanding on who the other broker is. I know that Multnomah County is represented by Apex, and I wanted to know who the other brokerage firm is. And again, I didn't hear who the buyer is. I wanted to have a clear understanding. I mean, these are public properties, public meetings. There should be no reason why a buyer would think that they're not going to disclose their names during these meetings. It's very important to me to understand if there's a handoff from anyone within Multnomah County to some of their close friends. So I watched this very close. And like I say, too, is that you had 3 separate nonprofits that were notified first before it went to the open market. I'm curious how you decide how to do that on picking 3 separate, possibly nonprofits or trusts first, and then roll it out to the overall community. Again, I'm just trying to have an understanding how you decide to do those things. How you show favoritism toward possibly some of your close friends and people that have received a tremendous amount of money recently. And I think you know who I'm talking about. So again, being a broker for over 20 years, but I specialized in apartment buildings, commercial real estate, I have a really clear understanding on what can go on in real estate matters, because most of my clients were real estate attorneys. And when you deal with real estate attorneys, they know the game. And so I'm just trying to have an understanding how you roll these properties out, to what people you decide to roll them out to, and then if you don't get any interest from them, you throw it out to the brokers to expand it to the overall market. So is there like a policy in place? Is that part of your charter? Or do you just make that decision? And have you received donations from any of these people to get elected? I want to know who this buyer is on this property, and I'll have a discussion with them personally. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, Nancy and Kate, if you would mind coming back, we'll open it up to see if there are any questions from the board. We'll start with Commissioner Jones-Dixon. Any questions?
Yep, no questions. I think you presented a couple weeks ago as far as like how we arrived at this point. I believe it's a private family that's purchasing the property. So thank you for your work on this and the presentation. No additional questions.
Any questions or comments?
I had all my questions answered at the last briefing. Really appreciate it. And very supportive.
Great, thank you. Commissioner Singleton?
Thank you all. I think just want to acknowledge and appreciate that the dollars are also going back into the existing library project. So I'm keeping it where it was initially allocated, makes a lot of sense. So I just really, and just want to again, thank you all for the thoughtfulness in how this has rolled out and looking at opportunities for community benefit before we jump to the highest bidder. So I know we landed in a good spot, but just want to appreciate some of the extra work that went into this. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Moyer. Okay, great. I just want to appreciate all the work that did go into this. I know you worked really closely with community and with this board on these steps, and excited to see how these funds can be used to make the updates to Elmina even better. So thank you all so much. Tasia, can we have a roll call vote?
Commissioner Moyer?
Aye.
Commissioner Singleton?
Yes.
Commissioner Brim Edwards?
Yes.
Commissioner Jones-Dixon?
Yes, thank you.
Chair Vega Peterson?
Aye, the budget modification is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you.
R2, budget modification number LPSCC-001-26, appropriating $812,062 of LIPSIC carry-forward grant funding.
May I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Commissioner Singleton moved, Commissioner Jones-Dixon second. Approval of R2. Good morning. This budget modification carries forward revenues from 2 grant awards for lipstick. So I want to, and this is really around the Reimagining Justice project in Cully. So before I turn it over to Sarah and Colby, I just wanted to thank Commissioner Singleton and your office for your work on this project, really engaging with the community on this, and also to Naya, who's been such an important partner and leader in the work as well in the community. So with that, I will turn it over to you. Good morning.
Good morning, Chair and Commissioners. For the record, my name is Sarah Mullen. I'm the Executive Director of the Local Public Safety Coordinating Council, and I am joined this morning by Colby Dixon from DCJ, who is supporting LIPSIC Finance. Next slide, please. All right, so today we're going to be reviewing the carry forward budget modification for FY26. This slide gives some context to the funding within this budget modification. So due to our overlap of grant awards in the county's fiscal year, this carry forward budget modification brings forward unspent revenue from the prior year to allow for spending in the current fiscal year. The 2 grants that make up this budget modification include the CJC Multnomah County Justice Reinvestment Program grant for the balance of the 23-25 award, and then the BJA Reimagining Justice in Cully for increased spending by providers in this fiscal year. Next slide, please. All right, so for the CJC Justice Reinvestment carry forward, this allows us to fully spend down the grant funds before we move to the new 25-27 award. It supports the victim services pass-through contracts and the remainder of the personnel funding of the MCJRP grant coordinator within LIPSIC. Next slide. For the BJA Cully carry forward, this slide depicts the breakdown of the requested carry forward for a total of $532,121, which consists mainly of contractual services passed through, and that goes to our partner, NAYA. The BJA carry forward reflects the estimated funding needed for this current year. The spending by our community provider has increased over the past year, and this budget modification will support those project efforts to ensure that we spend this grant down in a timely manner. Well, we don't end this grant until the end of September 2026. Due to federal funding uncertainty, we want to make sure that we are utilizing these funds efficiently. Next slide. This concludes our presentation of the LIPSIC carry forward bud mod. Any questions?
Thank you so much. We do have somebody signed up for public testimony, so I'll bring you back up in case there are any questions.
Lightning.
Yes, my name is Lightning. I represent Lightning Super, No Justice, No Peace. Of course I approve of this. I never want to get on the bad side of Judge Nan Waller. I would never want to do that. All kidding aside, from my position, what I want, and even Judge Nan Waller to maybe even take a look at, is I would like the local public safety coordinating council to maybe start thinking about being the oversight council when the Lightning Super body-worn camera program is rolled out. Oh, it's going to be sometime early spring, late spring. And I want to have some very good and strong oversight. And I really think that this Public Safety Coordinating Council, and especially I love the judges, okay? I will never step on the toes of the judges, to make that very clear. Never step on the toes. But I'd like to have the judges also on these oversight committees reviewing that body-worn camera video and audio. And one of the main focuses I hope the council could look at is that my main focus is that I want to really monitor any complaints that come in from community members and make sure that everything is followed through professionally and done properly. My opinion, some of these elected officials try to push people in directions to go as far as the statute of limitations have taken effect and you can no longer proceed forward. They create so much confusion for some members of the community that there's no way they can really proceed forward. And I want a oversight council with some serious authority. And if they see anything like this taking place, things get changed immediately. And I think that's what this coordinating council can do. And I hope that you'll take a look at that. As you know, of course, in Portland, there's oversight committees over the Portland Police, and they do have access to the body-worn camera, video, and audio. And I really think it's a direction that I'd love to see, and I'm going to have some other outside parties also monitoring the Multnomah County Sheriff's Department, the body-worn camera program, extensively. And I've already got some systems in place and mechanisms in place that will be nothing anyone's ever seen before. And I have certain people that will roll that out at the right time. So we are really in the know on these body-worn cameras, the video and audio, and protecting the community members' rights to file complaints, be heard, and everything is done professional.
Thank you. All right, I'll invite folks back up and see if there are any questions from the board. Commissioner Brim-Edwards, any questions?
I don't have any questions about the budget modification. We've had a briefing about it. I am going to be really interested on the Coley Justice Reimagined project, so I'm looking forward to that and supportive of the budget modification.
Thank you. Commissioner Singleton.
Thank you. Just a couple of quick comments. One, I want to appreciate this team. You've been just such critical partners on the Reimagining Justice in Cully. I think in light of what Commissioner Brim-Edwards was just saying, I do think there's a bit of an after-action report that we could put together, because I do think this project is replicable in other communities. I've spoken with Park Rose, for example, about some of the same things around lighting, activation of spaces. But I also just want to highlight this. We actually right now, the program was a part of a panel presentation a few months ago, and we actually have some visitors with us right now looking at the project and meeting with partners from the International Association of Chiefs of Police, who sent their 2 technical assistance managers out to visit and talk with our partners, as well as somebody from Rutgers University who is a part of the grant recipient cohort in Newark. So this is getting a lot of attention, and I think it's a really critical program that my staff is very intimately involved, since you all also faced some reductions and lost some staff time to dedicate to the project. So just want to highlight, I do think there's a lot we can learn and think about how we can bring these sorts of activities to other parts of the county. So thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Moyer. Okay, Commissioner Jones-Dixon?
You know where I'm at. No, thank you.
Yeah, no, this is an incredible program. I'm glad we're able to move these dollars forward so we can continue this good work on that. And I do think that having an after action or some kind of summary of the work that's happened and the impact will be great. I know originally I believe that there was also hope that we could do some of this work, and I think it was Gresham as well, but that didn't work out. But I do think that our opportunity to replicate this would be amazing. So thank you so much. Tasia, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Moyer?
Aye.
Commissioner Singleton?
Yes?
Commissioner Brim Edwards?
Yes.
Commissioner Jones-Dixon?
Yes, thank you.
Chair Vega Peterson.
Aye, the budget modification is approved.
R3, resolution approving the R3, resolution approving the Oregon Historical Society levy renewal, explanatory statement and ballot title.
May I have a motion? Second. Commissioner Jones-Dixon moves, Commissioner Brim Edwards seconds, approval of R3. So I really want to thank our guests from the Oregon Historical Society Oversight Committee for joining us today. We were joined by them a couple months ago with an overview. In October, the whole committee was able to provide us a presentation on all the great work that is happening at the 5 historical organizations that we have access to across Multnomah County. That work is made possible and free to all Multnomah County residents thanks to this levy. And today we have an opportunity to approve the materials to send the levy renewal to the ballot. With that, I will welcome our presenters and turn things over to them. Good morning.
Good morning, Chair Vega Peterson and Commissioners. I'm Diane McKeel, co-chair of the Oregon Historical Society Levy Oversight Committee. My co-chair, Jan Dilg, is here, and we're here today to express the support of the entire Levy Oversight Committee for the Multnomah County History Levy, first passed by voters in 2010 and renewed by overwhelming margins in 2016 and 2020, and will be placed on the ballot for a 5-year renewal in May 2026. We're also joined by Carrie Timchuk, Executive Director of the Oregon Historical Society, who's representing the 5 organizations that receive funding from the levy: the Oregon Historical Society, the Gresham Historical Society, the Troutdale Historical Society, the Crown Point Country Historical Society, and the East County Historic Organization. And we do have representatives from those organizations here with us in the audience today. So I had the privilege of sitting on your side of the dais when voters first passed this levy in 2010. As a commissioner and now as a private citizen, it's always very satisfying to see that an idea worked as it was intended to. And I'm proud to report that the Multnomah County History Levy has worked and continues to work exactly as it was envisioned. The goal of the levy was to provide support to the Oregon Historical Society, which serves as the Multnomah County Historical Society, and to the 4 East County history organizations so that they could continue and improve the important work preserving our history and making it accessible to all. In return for the cost of just $12.50 annually for a property appraised at $250,000, all county residents would have free admission to the Oregon Historical Society and the East County museums. The levy rate remained the same for the past 2 renewals and would remain the same under the proposal before you today, meaning the levy does not increase taxes. To ensure accountability, the original levy and the 2 levy renewals provided for a levy oversight committee of citizens who meet at least twice annually with the directors of all 5 museums to review expenditures, to offer advice, and to ensure that they are in compliance with the levy language. Chair Dill will now continue our presentation.
Thank you, Diane.
Good morning. And if you just want to hit the button on your mic, that will turn it on. Thank you.
Turn mine off. Good morning. For the record, my name is Janice Dilge, co-chair of the History Levy Oversight Committee. As co-chair McKeel stated, since the last levy renewal, the Citizens Oversight Committee, which consists of Bill Bennett, Jennifer Burns, Elka Grisham, Lib Pruden, Debbie Menashe, Scott Forrest, and Paul Knowles, has met at least twice a year to ensure compliance with the levy language. The committee continues to be impressed by how the history organizations have used levy funds to fulfill their missions. Levy funds were instrumental in the construction of a beautiful new Crown Point Historical Society Museum, and the funds have assisted the other East County organizations in expansion of exhibitions and programs, leading to dramatically increased attendance. Levy funds were also key to the Oregon Historical Society's creation of a new permanent exhibition dedicated to the history of the city of Portland, an exhibition which is now part of the curriculum for many Portland schools. As co-chair McKeel and I shared in our annual presentation to you last fall, the LOC continues to be impressed by how the Oregon Historical Society has remained true to the levy language, requiring them to ensure that their partnerships, exhibitions, programs, and publications proactively represent Multnomah County's diverse culture. In short, Madam Chair and Commissioners, your Levy Oversight Committee believes the Multnomah County history level has been a win-win. Yes, a win for the 5 organizations supported by the levy, but also a win for all the citizens of Multnomah County. As you stated so eloquently at our last hearing, Madam Chair, there has never been a more important time to share true and accurate history than today. And so now I'd like to segue to OHS Executive Director Carrie Chimchuk, who will conclude our presentation, and following that, we would be happy to respond to any questions.
Thank you.
Thank you, Co-Chair. Madam Chair and Commissioners, for the record, my name is Carrie Timchuk. It's been my privilege to serve as Executive Director of the Oregon Historical Society for the past 15 years. In the audience today with me are Sylvia Andrews with the Gresham Historical Society, Chris Garza with the Troutdale Historical Society, and Peggy Olin with ECHO, expressing their support on behalf of the levy. And on behalf of all the 5 history organizations that receive levy funding, I offer our gratitude to the voters of Multnomah County for their support of the levy in 2010 and the renewal in 2016 and 2021. I also want to thank the LOC co-chairs and all members of the LOC who have provided oversight and guidance these past 5 years and work to ensure that the history organizations are living up to levy requirements and being good stewards of taxpayer money. Trusting our organizations with the preserving and sharing the history of our state, county, and communities is a responsibility we all take very seriously, and a responsibility we have been able to meet better than ever thanks to the support provided by levy funding. It should come as no surprise that all of the 5 history organizations agree that giving voters the opportunity to renew the levy with no increase in taxes is a win-win situation for all involved. Obviously, as Co-Chair Dilge said, a win for the organizations, as it will allow us to continue with our important work, and a win for all the citizens of the county who will have free admission to the world-class OHS Museum and Research Library and free admission to the 4 outstanding East County organizations. I had the honor this past Monday of visiting with the remarkable Avell Gordley. As you know, Avell made history as the first Black woman to serve in the Oregon State Senate. And from 2011 to 2016, she was also the co-chair of the first Levy Oversight Committee. Avell shared with me how proud she was of that service and how proud she was of OHS and the benefits that have come with the levy. Words she wrote to me earlier eloquently sum up the benefits of levy renewal. Avell wrote, "OHS is a unifier of all of Oregon, showcasing and telling all of our community's stories. This institution has earned and is deserving of continuing support through the levy. Thousands of Oregon's children know better the state and city they call home because of their exposure to the increased diverse and excellent presentations of history at OHS. In these troubling times of fragmentation of communities and dishonoring of people and cultures, we need to support, enhance, and grow the cultural institutions in Oregon that knit and tie us together." Thank you, and as the co-chair said, happy to respond to any questions.
Thank you so much. We're so glad. I'm sure there will be, if not questions, definitely comments around this from the board. But we do have someone signed up for public testimony. So if you wouldn't mind just moving to the seats back there, we'll call you up in just a minute.
Lightning.
Yes, my name is Lightning. I represent Lightning Super, no justice, no peace. Renew with no increase in taxes. I mean, people can't go wrong with that. And you know, the Oregon Historical Society, in my opinion, is just as important as the libraries or the art museums. And I can only speak from my history of Charles W. Morgan from New Bedford and the Mystic Seaport Maritime Museum, and studying their history and reviewing it, and history transferred to the Library of Congress. And history is so important. And when I look back at my relatives, I had no idea they were some of the leading people in the abolitionist movement in New Bedford. And my grandfather owned 18 ships, and Charles W. Morgan is the last remaining whale ship that is still at Mystic Seaport, financed by the DuPont family for the restoration. And the reality is that I would have no idea unless I went back through the history and the archives from these museums, and I would have no clue in understanding. And yes, my relatives were part of that, the underground, and there's a lot of data right now, and I'm following it from the land underground to the actual ports, the ships themselves, where you have actual logs and diaries. And like I say, they kept extensive diaries back in the day. And that's all still public record. You can pull that up at the Library of Congress. And the reality is that when you look at that, it just gives you a feeling of, wow, this is something amazing, which you'd never have that opportunity without such as the Oregon Historical Society, keeping all these records together, bringing the younger generation and having them review this and have a clear understanding on what they can do into the future, possibly what history they can make. And you know, it's interesting when you think about your life, we have such a short lifespan, but history carries that on. These museums carry what you have done into the future. And that's why it's so important. And now we're into the digital age. And it is so important even to keep these records, communications at these council meetings, in the archives, in the history archives, to study and to learn from. Great work to the Oregon Historical Society. And Diane, aren't you from Metro, if I'm correct? Or maybe I'm wrong on that, but thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah. Former Commissioner McKeel has had a very busy retirement since this board, Mount Hood Community College Board, the Oregon Historical Society Oversight Board, so many things. I've just named a couple. Yes.
I was negligent, Madam Chair, in not also introducing the mayor of Troutdale, Dave Ripma, who is with us today in support of the Troutdale Historical Society.
Thank you so much for being here today, Mayor Ripma. It's good to see you in this room. Thank you. All right, we will go to the board with questions on this item. We will start with Commissioner Singleton. No questions or comments?
No questions, just appreciate the work and the presentation we received on some of the updates. I will just do a quick shout out that there's really cool oral history project up right now about the history of homelessness that one of the College to County interns in the chair's office did. So encourage folks to check it out. Thanks.
Thank you. Commissioner Moyer.
Also, no questions. Excited to refer this to the voters. An accurate representation of history seems incredibly important right now, and I trust the work of the Oregon Historical Society to continue to tell the complex and very interesting story of Oregon from the past and in the present. We'll see what we say about ourselves in a few decades. But thank you for all of your work. I look forward to having this on the ballot and continued support for the Oregon Historical Society.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Moore. Commissioner Jones-Dixon.
Yeah, I think great. Thank you, Chair, and thank you, co-chairs, for the presentation, and Carrie for, as always, being here every year for the work, and ditto, just building off of what my colleagues had said already. Deeply appreciative of just the way we capture our history and then share it as well. I'm looking forward to another visit to the vault here soon out in Gresham, and just want to also say thank you to Chris, Sylvia, and forgetting your name as well, as far as your leadership and just also the contributions that you're making to our community on a daily basis. And thank you, Mayor Ripma, for making it out from the great District 4. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Brim Edwards.
Thank you for being here again. I really am I'm very supportive of the referral, as I have been as a community member in the past when it was before the put before the voters. I'm supportive for 3 reasons that I think is really important to share. I think I very much appreciate the role that you all play in making sure that you're stewards of our county's history, sort of the good and the bad, so that we can all learn from it. Second, I'm very much appreciative of the economic activity that is generated also by the presence of the different historical societies. The explanatory statement has a great does a really good job capturing what that activity that the work that you all do captures. And then third, I'm appreciative that the levy funding mechanism retains the current rate. I think that's the financially prudent thing to do, and I'm very supportive. So once this is referred and before the voters, I'm more than happy as a commissioner to speak to the benefit to the broader community, because I have been as a community member, but also as a member of the Portland School Board, sharing of our history with our youngest county residents has been one of the big benefits I see of the measure, and your presence. I say for me personally, my district is in Portland, so the Oregon History Society, but I know throughout the county the other history societies also provide that benefit. So I don't have any questions. I'm just very supportive. Thank you for putting together a package that I think we all can enthusiastically go out and support.
Great. And I will just, round off the strong support that you have from this commission for the renewal of this levy. I think it's really important, and it truly does serve people from one end of the county to another with all of 5 historical societies. This is something that we know the public has supported strongly when it has been up for renewal in the past, and I don't see any reason that wouldn't continue. But so I'm really proud to take this to refer it to the ballot again and help in any way. And this will be on the May 2026, so just a few months to make sure that folks know that it's going to be on there. So. Thank you all so very much for all of the work on this, for all of the work that you every day, making sure that this levy is being run and managed in the way that we have promised to voters. And I know that will continue as this renewal goes forward. Thank you.
A special word of thanks, Madam Chair, to your staff on Bui. We've had a number of liaisons over the course of the last 15 years, and he is really one of the best. He's just been a great contact, and I know he was going to be here this morning and said he had a family situation, but just wanted to express our thanks to him. So.
Thank you so much for bringing that up. Ann has really dug into this work as the liaison and working with all of you, and has been an enthusiastic supporter of this, and he was disappointed that he wasn't able to be here today for this. So thank you so much for that.
You bet.
Tasia, can we have a roll call vote?
Commissioner Moyer?
Yes.
Commissioner Singleton?
Yes.
Commissioner Brim Edwards?
Yes.
Commissioner Jones-Dixon?
Yes, thank you.
Chair Vega Peterson?
Aye, the resolution is adopted.
R4, resolution adopting the East Multnomah County Transportation Safety Action Plan.
May I have a motion?
So moved.
Commissioner Jones-Dixon moves, Commissioner Singleton seconds, approval of R4. This is a really important agenda item before us today. There's been a lot of work that has gone into this. Safety transportation is really of great importance to me. I've worked on it consistently going back to my time in the state legislature and then as a commissioner. But it's something that I know is important to our entire community, and that is reflected in the plan before us today and all the work that's gone into it. So I just really want to thank the community members who have engaged in surveys and giving this time to help craft this report. I want to thank Commissioner Jones-Dixon and city leaders in East County who have, as a part of AMUCTUC, or the East Multnomah County Transportation Committee, have spoken with passion and support for this plan. I want to thank Commissioner Singleton for bringing this important work to JPAC to advocate on behalf of the county and our community at that important funding table. And then last but definitely not least, I just want to thank the DCS staff who have spent many hours working with the community and across county departments, primarily with our health division, to develop this report. So just really want to appreciate all the great work that's gone into that. With that, I want to turn things over to Commissioner Vince Jones-Dixon to help kick things off with our upcoming panel.
Yeah, again, as always, to build off of what you shared, Chair, extremely pleased and excited to introduce and support the adoption of the TSAP plan, and be remiss if I didn't say huge thanks to Director Bradway, Sarah, Jessica, Mike, for your work, and also your patience as we're getting up to speed. As the chair of the AMUCTUC, the East Multnomah County Transportation Committee, it has been my pleasure, as I mentioned, just to learn and then also guide the work and facilitate the meetings. And just learn about just the impacts of just having a focused plan and or strategy. East Multnomah County has one of the highest concentrations of high injury corridors in the region, as well as underserved communities that are disproportionately affected by traffic crashes. This project made the community's voice a priority, and that's reflected in the report. We were able to hear directly from the community about their concerns and priorities for safe transportation. And we've used the valuable information to shape a coordinated strategy. Together, the county and our partners in Gresham, Troutdale, Fairview, and Wood Village will take action together to reach our vision of 0 deaths and 0 serious injuries on East County streets within the next 10 years. As the county and the cities adopt this plan to show support for the strategy, AMUCTUC will ensure we keep the momentum going, working across our partnerships to advocate for funding, make policy changes, and build safer streets. With that, I'll pass it off to our amazing team. Thank you so much for being here. I'm looking forward to the presentation, per usual.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you so much, Commissioner Jones-Dixon and Chair, for the introduction to this item. My name is Allison Boyd. I am the Transportation Planning Manager with the Department of Community Services. Joining me today is Mary Jo Anderson from our Transportation Division, Brendan Haggerty from our Health Department, and Mike Sellinger from our consultant team. And today we are requesting that the county adopt the East Multnomah County Transportation Safety Action Plan. You can go to the next slide. So you may be asking, what is a Transportation Safety Action Plan? And this is a strategy document that lays out a layered approach to strive for an end to traffic crash deaths in our community. Through the planning process, we collected community knowledge and analyzed crash data to match proven best practices with our specific safety issues. A key feature of this plan is the focus on eliminating fatal and serious injury crashes and acknowledging that responsibility for achieving this is shared. Government agencies, law enforcement, businesses, community organizations, and individuals all have a role to play in making our roadways safer for everyone. I can go to the next slide. So in 2024, we were awarded a federal Safe Streets for All grant through Metro to develop this plan. We kicked off the project starting with hearing from the community, followed by a deep dive into the data. And then we spent the first half of 2025 putting together recommendations and getting more feedback. And this past fall, we worked on refining a draft plan and checking with the community and our partners if we got it right. And finally, in December, we asked our Bike and Pedestrian Community Advisory Committee and the East Multnomah County Transportation Committee if they supported the final plan. And both groups recommended it for adoption by the county. You can go to the next slide. So this was a collaborative effort. The plan focuses on urban East Multnomah County and was a joint effort of the county and the cities of Gresham, Fairview, Troutdale, and Wood Village. The East Multnomah County Transportation Committee, or MUCTUC for short, is made up of elected officials from all of these jurisdictions, chaired by Commissioner Jones-Dixon, and it also has representatives from the Port, Metro, TriMet, ODOT, and Portland. So it was the perfect steering committee to lead this project. And MUCTUC has also committed to overseeing implementation of the plan. In addition to the leadership of MUCTUC, we were also able to leverage our partnerships with the East County Safe Routes to School program that includes school districts and community organizations, our public health and REACH teams at the county, and the Sheriff's Office and Gresham Police. You can go to the next slide. So an important part of developing this plan was setting a goal. MUCTUC had a robust goal-setting session after they heard safety concerns from the community and the crash trends that we analyzed. They set the goal of eliminating all traffic fatalities and serious injuries by 2035. And they also stated that no loss of life is acceptable. We must ensure our streets are safe for all community members to travel, including those who walk, use bicycles, take transit, or use mobility devices. You can go to the next slide. And I'll hand it off to Brendan to talk more about how this plan ties into public health.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Brendan Haggerty. I'm the Healthy Homes and Communities Manager in the Health Department. And I'm here this morning to underscore how important this effort is for public health and to show how much we value the partnership of DCS in making our community a healthy place for all. As the Public Health Division has documented repeatedly over the past several years, and as affirmed by the Multnomah County Public Health Advisory Board, traffic crashes are a major public health concern. This is a recognition of the fact that they are a leading cause of death. We observe racial disparities in outcomes, and the trend is alarming. The death rate has been increasing since the late 2010s and in the 2020s. In Multnomah County, unintentional injury is the third leading cause of death, and that includes deaths from car crashes. In our past reporting to you, we've noted that there are some ways that traffic crash deaths in East County are disproportionate. For example, we found that the rate of years of potential life lost in East County was roughly double what it was in the central city. Now, on the next slide, you'll see the ways that the plan before you today intersects with a public health approach. Safe streets have a lot of health benefits. They're places for physical activity, for social connection. They help people to access the needed services and maintain independence across the lifespan. But we find that safety concerns can become a barrier to using the right-of-way for other health-promoting purposes. In public health, we emphasize that changing the underlying conditions that promote health. We try to create environments that make the healthy choice the easy choice. And the TSAP lays out a roadmap for accomplishing that in East County. It is consistent with a public health approach envisioned by the Multnomah County Public Health Advisory Board and deployed with success in cities around the world. So I will just conclude by expressing appreciation for the partnership between DCS and the Health Department from the very beginning of this project. We're ready to partner with them to make this plan a reality as resources become available.
Next slide. Good morning. I'm Mary Jo Anderson, a transportation planner for Multnomah County. Public engagement for this project was very extensive. Next slide. We had 3 phases of public engagement. The first 2 phases were over the summers of 2024 and 2025. Our engagement materials were translated into the 6 most prominent languages that we know are out in East Multnomah County. We also did a balance of online and in-person activities to pull in as many people as possible. And throughout the course of the project, we had over 3,000 community members participate in our project. Next slide. As I mentioned, we did a lot of in-person engagement during the 2 summers. We went to many events, public events out in East Multnomah County. This was everything from Juneteenth to Rockwood Rock the Block, the farmers markets in Gresham and at Mount Hood, Troutdale Arts Festival, Wood Village Night Out, Fairview on the Green, and other smaller events as well. We had our materials included interactive maps and surveys at both summer events. So the maps that you see and the materials you see up on the screen were also online. We had people translating with us at those events, including our fantastic county to college interns who were bilingual and could really engage with the community out at these events. Additionally, to these outreach events, we had toolkits for our city partners that included press releases, social media posts, flyers. We deployed flyers and lawn signs with QR codes that reached to our surveys. So we were really out and about throughout the 2 summers of 2024 and 2025. Next slide. In addition to that, we did some other deep dives. We had the community engagement liaisons conduct listening sessions. These folks have trained community leaders that interact with people who may not go to a public event or who may not fill out an online survey. So they were able to connect deeply with partners in our underserved communities. We also did partner interviews with community organizations and agencies that work directly boots on the ground in East Multnomah County. In addition to the organizations you see on this slide, we also met with Gresham Police and Multnomah County Sheriff's Office, as Allison previously mentioned. So what did we hear? Next slide. You can see that safety concerns that we heard from people have to do with poorly maintained roads, sidewalks, pathways, or bike lanes, narrow, broken, or missing sidewalks, difficult intersections and crossings, people who have difficulty because of these maintenance problems. There's a lot of trouble getting around with mobility devices, not enough street lighting, particularly at the crosswalks, missing or uncomfortable bike lanes or pathways, and high speed limits. We did hear a lot in our in-person sessions about people who have concerns about speeding that happens on those major arterials out in East County. Next slide. So when we went back out with our second round and said, okay, here's what we heard from you, what sort of things should we do in these dangerous locations? And what we heard was very consistent with the first round, and that was to complete gaps in sidewalks and bike lanes, to seek long-term funding for Safe Routes to School program, to build high visibility crosswalks and accessibility improvements, work on developing speed programs to address the speeding, and improve street lighting, particularly at those crosswalks to provide more safety for our pedestrians that are out in East County. So this really extensive engagement did a great job of informing our plan And I will also add that it was very rewarding and fun to connect with so many of our East County community. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Mary Jo. My name is Mike Sellinger with Alta Planning and Design, and I was the project manager for the consultant team on this project. And today I just want to briefly go over some of the findings from the safety analysis as well as what is in the final plan. So next slide, please. This work built off of Metro's work around high injury corridors, showing that East Multnomah County had many of the most dangerous roads in the entire region. So digging further into that for this project area, we looked at the last 10 years of crash data and saw there were over 8,400 crashes. And that translates to annually over 58 people seriously injured or killed on the streets in East Multnomah County. Among those 58, on average, it's 11 people walking, 2 people biking, 38 people driving, and 7 people riding motorcycles. One of the key findings in the crash analysis is that people walking and biking and riding motorcycles are very overrepresented in serious injuries or fatal crashes compared to the overall crash rate. So that's something we're really trying to solve for and protect the most vulnerable users on the roads. Next slide, please. Looking at where the crashes occurred, this map up here shows the concentration, and you can see it's not concentrated to 1 or 2 areas. It's really across the entire arterial network. So there are multiple streets in East Multnomah County that are dangerous for people traveling by any mode. Next slide, please. Some of the trends that came out from the crash analysis are speed-related crashes are widespread and one of the most common causes. So we heard a lot of that in the public engagement as well, of concerns around speeding, both high posted speed limits and people exceeding those as well. So something we're certainly trying to solve for in the recommendations. Intersections were some of the highest risk locations for vulnerable road users. And as well as paired with a lack of mid-block crosswalks. So people walking are often having to go very far distances to find a safe crossing or risk crossing at an unsafe location. As Mary Jo also mentioned, lighting is a big concern, and we heard that repeatedly and also saw that in the data looking at where street lighting is currently located. There are many intersections that don't have adequate street lighting, and we see a huge uptick in pedestrian crashes after dark. So lighting definitely a really important part of improving pedestrian safety. And then finally, of trends, impaired driving is a major issue as well. And in the crashes that have an impaired driver, it is much more likely to have a very severe or fatal crash. So in terms of improving or lowering the number of those most impactful crashes that are serious or fatal, we'll take a reduction in impaired driving. Next slide, please. So hopefully you've had a chance to look at the final plan. There's a lot more analysis in there. And in terms of recommendations, it's set up in a couple different ways. First, we have 10 priority corridors that rose to the top from public engagement and analysis as the most dangerous roadways in East Multnomah County. And we have specific recommendations for each of those corridors on how to make safety improvements. Next slide, please. We also have a number of system-wide safety improvements, and these are things that can help at any location, and they're intended to address things like speeding, improve pedestrian and bicycle safety, how to make intersections safer, and how to improve access and connectivity for everyone traveling in East County. Next slide, please. And then finally, this is an action plan. It really is intended to have that roadmap to take immediate actions to improve traffic safety. So around these 5 categories of design and construction, speed management, funding, advocacy, process, and policy and programs, we have immediate next steps that we think are both achievable and will be highly impactful. And we lay out the responsible agencies and some of those first steps to make progress on these, as well as some of the potential funding sources to help fund them. So with that, I just want to thank the Chair and Commission for your time today and open it up to any questions.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate all of the work and the collaboration that went into putting this together. I know that we had Gresham Mayor Stovall, who was hoping to speak today. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to make it this morning, but I do know that we have Metro Councilor Ashton Simpson online. Tasia, if we would be able to bring him on so he could provide some insight into this and his perspective on this work.
Thank you so much. Can you all hear me?
We
Just
can,
fine?
thank you.
Of course. Good morning, Chair Vega Peterson and members of the commission. For the record, my name is Ashton Simpson, Metro Councilor for District 1, which includes Gresham, Rockwood, East Portland, Troutdale, Wood Village, parts of Damascus, and a small piece of Happy Valley. I'm here on behalf of the people of the region to express my strong support for adopting the East Multnomah County Transportation Safety Action Plan. As you know, this plan was developed through Metro's Safe Streets for All grant program and has Metro's full support. And while the plan alone doesn't make the streets safer, they are an essential foundation for coordinated, strategic, and effective action on the ground. The East Multnomah County Transportation Safety Action Plan identifies our most urgent safety challenges, where they occur, who is most affected, and the targeted strategies needed to address them. It positions the county and regional partners like Metro to compete more effectively for funding and resources that will protect our most vulnerable roadway users by prioritizing safety over speed. Like Metro's regional transportation safety strategy, this plan embraces the goal of 0 deaths and serious injuries. That goal is ambitious, but it reflects a simple truth. No traffic death is acceptable. And I will take a moment just to say this morning we read a long list of names at our JPAC meeting of folks impacted by traffic violence. And as someone who has led a nonprofit, Oregon Walks, and talked a lot about this, that list seems to never dwindle down to 0 deaths. So I'm really supportive of the work that y'all are doing here as we continue to move this forward. And of course, without real tangible action, the goal is only as strong as the paper it's written on. But we know progress is possible. In 2025, traffic deaths in Multnomah County declined by 34% to the 2020 through 2024 period. With the implementation of this plan, I'm confident we can continue moving toward our shared vision of eliminating deaths and serious injuries on our roadways. Thank you for your time, your consideration, and for your thoughtfulness around this action. I wholeheartedly support the adoption and implementation of this plan, and I appreciate your continued partnership. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Councilor. We really appreciate you taking the time this morning to join us to speak on this.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right, was there any other testimony on this, Tasia?
No, Madam Chair.
All right, why don't we go to the board for any questions on this, any comments? We'll start with Commissioner Moyer. Okay. Commissioner Jones-Dickson.
Yes, no additional comments. Thank you. Thank you. And Councilor Simpson, thank you for taking the time this morning as well.
Commissioner Brim-Edwards.
No questions, but I just want to share that I was really impressed and appreciative of the amount of community engagement that was solicited, that sort of got married with all the data that you had. So I think it's a really solid plan. And to Councilor Simpson's point, a plan is only as good as what gets actually implemented. So looking forward to next steps.
Thank you so much. Commissioner Singleton.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to ask if you could follow up with a cleaner slide on the crash data summary. The key is all the words are kind of overlapping each other, so I can't actually tell what is what, and I just would love to be able to have that accurate data. I also want to reiterate the appreciation that went into this plan. You all know I'm always asking about community engagement, particularly in transportation projects, because that was my last job. So just really the work that you all did to make sure that the community voice was centered in this plan was really amazing. A couple of things I just want to highlight. One, I will say as a new JPAC member, I have been surprised at how low the speeds are that result in fatalities, and I think that education component is so key to make sure that people understand that. I think it was like 35 miles per hour is where we have a lot of these fatal crashes, and that is something that I don't think is common knowledge. So love to see that education piece in there. Of course, there's a piece on the pyramid that talks about affordable housing near transit. I hope as we're doing any of this work, we look for opportunities for transit-oriented development. Metro is so amazing at this work. TriMet has really picked up their work there. So any opportunities we have to leverage funds, I think will be really critical. And then I lastly just want to highlight that our consent item today was actually a budget, a grant application to implement one of the community priorities that are in this plan. And so I just, again, want to uplift the appreciation of that coordination across departments, because that was a health department grant, but that it's really already centering what community has asked for here. So thank you all for that work.
Thank you. Yes, thank you all for this. I will say, I was talking with someone from the Portland Police Bureau just the other week, and we were just talking about already how in 2026 there were a couple of different fatal accidents around traffic violence, even in the first beginning of this year. So we have to continue to be pushing hard on this work, and this plan gives us an incredible foundation for that. I also, the partnership that happened between the Health Department and DCS on this was just incredible. Thank you, Director Bradway, for being here, and for everyone at DCS who leaned into this work, especially our transportation team. But it's really, that cross collaboration between transportation, public health, and public safety is very important. And it's much needed because thank you for sharing the information about the number of people on our roads who are seriously injured or die. Is increasing. It's going to take more than just road improvements alone. It's going to take this comprehensive work. So I'm really delighted about the county's unique role in the community as a transportation provider, health service provider, the roles that we have in our justice system, homeless services, so that we really do have the ability to take a look at this from a holistic view. And I think that's an important way that this work will move forward. And because that pyramid that you showed, Brendan, was really all about like the combination of things that need to go in, everything from individual effort to the built environment. So appreciate all of that. So I'm looking forward to continuing this work with our East County cities, with the city of Portland, with Metro, with the state, to really see how we can all lean into this to realize the Vision Zero. But I think this plan is an excellent start. So thank you all so much for the work on this. Can we have a roll call vote, Tasha? Thank you.
Commissioner Moyer?
Aye.
Commissioner Singleton?
Yes.
Commissioner Brim-Edwards?
Yes.
Commissioner Jones-Dixon?
Yes.
Chair Vega-Peterson?
The resolution is adopted. Thank you all so very much.
R5, informational board briefing on winter preparedness and severe weather shelter activations.
All right, thank you. So we have folks from the Multnomah County Emergency Management Department who are here today, as well as our Multnomah County Department of Human Services here, Chris Voss and Rachel Pearl. So our final agenda item today is really an important briefing on Multnomah County's severe weather response. It's very timely as we're now in January for this board. To have this briefing. For us, the careful monitoring and preparation for severe weather has consistently been a priority. And we had a briefing right around this time last year as several commissioners were coming into office to provide an overview of the county's planning and response activities. And that's something that I was glad that we were able to support again this year. So many elements of our response grow and improve year after year. And so this briefing is intended to share what our capacity, our resources, our plans, and partnerships look like for the winter months ahead. And I want to place particular emphasis on that last point, the partnerships, because strong partnerships are really central to our ability to have a strong response. For us, the City of Portland is one of our most critical partners, ensuring that we are prepared to support this community during severe weather. And this briefing is an opportunity to discuss what that partnership could look like this season. And one of the things that's also, I think, important for this presentation is we talk a lot about sheltering and the need for that response during severe weather, but that's just one aspect of the response to severe weather. It's going to be a key focus for this morning's presentation, but we're also going to touch on some of the other things. So I just want to thank all the employees at the county who have dedicated significant time, energy, and resources into building our robust emergency response with the training, with support for our community. And that's really been built year over year with the expertise, wisdom, and learnings each successive season. So this is something, the result of which is something we should be proud of. And so I want to turn it over now to Rachel and Chris to lead us through today's presentation. Good morning.
Great. Good morning, Chair. Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Chris Voss, and I'm the Director of Emergency Management for Multnomah County. And we're going to walk through a few things. I'm going to try to highlight a little bit more some of the changes, as I know that you guys have been through some of this as well. We're obviously also happy to answer any questions along the way, too. But we have a slide deck. Why don't we go to the next slide? Just some of the aspects and some of the things we'll sort of walk through today. Next slide. So I don't know if Brendan Haggerty is still here, but I want to thank him. One of the things we do at the beginning of every season is we hold a big event with both county and our partners. The next 2 or 3 slides are actually put together by the health department, and it kind of drives some of our thinking and where we go. And so obviously this is really, really important for us to know sometimes if we're being effective and some of the factors that really kind of drive this program. And so you can see here 3 areas that we sort of track as a county. Through the health department, and why don't we go to the next slide? We'll see where we are. So we're fortunate in that last year was a little bit more of a lighter year for us, and we did see some of the numbers that actually sort of showed that. You could still see over the course of time, it still seems like we're up. But last year we did see a little bit of a diminish in some of the factors that we really think are very critical. Obviously, one of the reasons why this program became more robust a few years ago is just we started to see fatalities in the county due to severe weather. When there were years we were seeing 0 and 1, we started to see an uptick, and so obviously this program became a lot more robust at that time. And last year saw it diminish from where we were in the last few years, so very, very happy to sort of see those numbers. Next slide. It's also not lost to me today that the next 5 days are supposed to be like 50 degrees outside. We're living climate change, and so we sort of also see some of those extremes. Carbon monoxide is obviously one of the things that we are very much impacted as well during severe weather, especially people in their cars, people that sometimes take and utilize different heating sources. Many of you probably remember the event back in January 2024 where there were so many power outages where suddenly you start to see people use some of those alternative sources, and it impacts them. Last year, best year we've had in 10 years in that there were not any single fatalities due to carbon monoxide, so really, really happy to see that number. Next slide. I was going to talk a little bit about our SOP, and on the next couple slides really highlight some of the changes. But anybody that's seen our SOP, it's a lot about all of the meetings, the who is responsible for what, the meeting cadence. And I think those are sort of really, really important. Probably the question I'm asked most about, though, are thresholds. And so we'll talk a little bit about thresholds as well. Next slide. I wanted to first highlight the supply center. One, because this is a change, but 2, I also wanted to highlight the threshold. So a lot of people think about sort of the shelters as sort of one threshold, but actually when we expand outreach to many people that are experiencing houselessness when we actually reach 32 degrees. So while our shelters are one threshold, this is a different shelter. And right now I can say this is, I think, the latest we've ever been in a winter where we haven't actually activated this that I could remember. So we've been fortunate there. The most significant change we've had is to actually save dollars. Some of you probably remember through the budget cycle, we combined our 2 warehouses. So now this is actually all being managed by my group out of one warehouse that we utilize for all of these programs. And like I said, those folks just sort of moved in November 3rd, and that warehouse is officially off our books, I believe, at the end of the month. So happy to not be paying that bill. Yep, we'll all be happy we're not paying that bill. Next slide. So the thresholds for shelters, and a few components here. Certainly 25 degrees, when we see temperatures at that level, obviously it becomes a concern for us. And this is something we've worked with the health department for years because we really start to see an uptick. So before we start to see that uptick in risk and injury, we try to open these shelters. But there's some other factors there that really also impact that. One is rain. We know when we start to see a lot of moisture, that obviously is also impacting risk, and that's why you see one threshold here that specifically addresses if we're seeing significant rain, as well as snow or ice. So those are all measures for us. I don't want to lose this last one, though, because I think it's really critical for us. You know, we put up thresholds, but this is very much a conversation in the morning. People get together and say, like, are there other factors that we really need to consider? you will see us in a situation, you probably saw this a little bit in summer, is it a holiday? Is it a Sunday when there's fewer potential resources open? What are wind chills? All of these other factors matter for us, so I put out these as sort of our thresholds. But I want people to know that this is sometimes a conversation, and it's not an easy conversation. We now have also committed to really looking at what happens at the end of an event. So even our event at the end of last winter, our one big event in February, we stayed open a day past probably where we met the thresholds, simply because we were trying to get the roadways back to normal, and there was still some ice and snow in the ground that we were concerned about. And so that matters for us, making sure that we have folks and we're getting people back to normal. Next slide. So our incident management has not changed significantly. We are still in a partnership, and it typically is members of both the county and the city of Portland that also have key programs. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that relationship in the next couple slides too, because that's also changed dramatically. But you know, when we do see significant weather, we also oversee sort of the government operations. So that may mean a closure. Sometimes we don't have that call at 5 a.m. Sometimes it's in the middle of the afternoon if we think we've got to do an early closure. But standard, if we do see severe weather coming in, we try to make sure that we're getting that message out to employees by 5:30 or 5:45 so they know that they're not coming in and hitting the roads in sometimes questionable conditions. Next slide. So city-county MOU development. So I've been getting a lot of questions on this one. We're close. I'm hoping hours and days and not weeks on this one. We've hammered out a lot of the specifics that we hope to be able to go back to sort of the chair with. Right now it's still at the operational level, but I want to capture a few key points here because I think it's important. This MOU, if we ultimately agree to it, would mean that we would be compensating the city for additional costs to keep their overnight shelters open during the day as well. Those are costs that we would obviously provide to the city of Portland for those additional costs, but it's also a good deal for the county. Some of the things that we tend to struggle with are the staffing. And here there are a lot of contractors we'd be able to sort of leverage, as well as sometimes facilities. And so here are facilities that the city is already potentially paying for, so there's some cost there, as well as the city would be paying for the overnight staffing costs, so really we're just paying for the day. We would likely be providing meals or paying for meals. I'm going to talk this as a little bit of a mixed bag, but for the most part, many of the city's contractors do believe, and the city has indicated that they're confident that they would be able to run their shelters 24/7, so it's just a financial exchange. There are a lot of other nuances here, but like I said, I wanted to reiterate there's two key components here. One, I do believe this will save us dollars in the long run, and two, it puts us in a position where I think we're less likely to fail in our ultimate mission, which is turning people away during severe weather, because it provides us capacity. And during really, really big events, we're leveraging volunteers in the county, and eventually you could only find so many accountants and librarians and other folks in the county that are willing to sort of fill these positions. And there have been big events where we've needed to fill thousands of shifts, so it's not an easy lift. Next slide. A little bit about that facility piece. We do have some facilities. We've got one facility we're renting. I want to very much thank Vice Chair Jones-Dixon and his staff as we continue to try to find an ideal location on the eastern part of the county. We do have one or two locations with nonprofits that we're sort of working with. I think there's even some places we're touring this week. It continues to be a struggle with us, partially because there's less facilities like that, but partially because there's also some differences from a permitting standpoint in the eastern part of the county than is in the city of Portland. So those are things we've always got to sort of work through. Next slide. I was going to highlight this, and probably a lot of you have seen a list of the city locations. And I wanted to just highlight this for a couple reasons. And it's one, you could see all these different stripes and colors. It's a little bit of a mixed bag, only because when we do enter this agreement with the city in the MOU, not every location is the same. So there are some locations that will not allow to be, will not be open. So we know that You see that first gray, that Central Nazarene adult facility. They cannot stay open during the day, so those folks potentially need to go to another location. You could see family sites where we're potentially just providing food. You could see that light green color where we know they're still standing up those locations now, and so they're not quite fully there. And then there's some of these locations at the very bottom, which are their surge locations. Some we will be providing food, some we will be providing staffing during the day. St. Stephen's, because they can't staff during the day. But I wanted to let you know, even despite all these little nuances, okay, we're going to provide food here, we don't have to provide food there. We've got staff here during the day, we don't have to provide. We're working through all those issues. I think we've got great transparency in what we need to do. Now we're just finalizing the MOU that says just that. But collectively, it will provide some additional beds for us. And I think the biggest unknown for us, and I know Rachel and I talk a lot about this, is the city hasn't been through this the way that we've been through this probably the last couple of years. So we're also sometimes cautious about hey, what happens like in January 2024 when we've got pipes bursting, facilities are losing power. So we've talked through some of those pieces as well. Come up with, I think, is what will be a regional cost share. If we've got to bring in some emergency generator or emergency HVACs, which would probably be an even split for the county and the city. Like I said, at the end of the day, we're thinking about capacity, and we're thinking a lot about the people that we're serving. It doesn't pay the city to exit their folks in the middle of a storm and send them to ours during the day. That made no sense. So we had to find a way that these two things would work together. Next slide. I also wanted to put this out there, and in its most simplistic version, I think for us, we wanted to sort of highlight the worst event we've had and what this might look like in locations that we might need to staff and or run. So obviously, this is considering that the city wouldn't lose any facilities, but you can see a significant net decrease in the number of volunteers we would potentially need to work in the shelters as staff. There are some nuances here from a behavioral health and a medical side where we're still trying to find the best way to sort of support potentially more locations. And there are some limitations there, so you might see us prioritize locations that are being run by city, county workers compared to contractors. But for us, it does mean we have to find fewer locations and potentially have to find less staff. And within that component, it also means that the staff that are actually staffing these locations are more often familiar with the people coming in, and so I think that's an advantage. And they're also more familiar with this work because they're doing it every day, so we see some advantages there. Although we do anticipate some of these groups would have to up staff, so they might have some staff that are new as well. I think that's my last slide. Why don't we go one more slide? I might be handing over. One more. Supplies, capabilities, logistics. You know, we've maintained our supplies this year. We still, you can see these two numbers, these 1,300 and the 1,500. The reason why you sometimes see these 13 numbers, we're trying to plan to shelter 1,300 people, but sometimes that means we need a little bit of overage for when we do lose those facilities, and we do. That's when times you see 1,300, 1,500. Our main goal is to be in a position where we can put 1,300 people in shelters, though. We do have a lot of resources, shelters that we could sort of move pretty quickly. We've got one location that we've rented on the Inner East Side, which is great for us if we do need to span, especially if we see in an instance come up very quickly. Like, you guys probably remember that snowstorm 2 years ago, or we thought we were going to get a dusting, and then you get almost a foot of snow. This allows us to be able to act a lot quickly rather than try to get into a nonprofit organization within hours. So I think I'm going to hand it off to Rachel. Next slide. Oh, do I still have one more? Oh, transportation. I still have more. I'm not just trying to hand this off. Okay, transportation. I wanted to highlight this slide because I didn't highlight it last year. This is one of our programs that we sort of manage. It actually was run by the city a few years ago, and now we're sort of coordinating this piece. The primary is 211, but what happens during a lot of severe events, especially in these overnight hours, is that 211 is trying to send cabs and/or Uber and Lyft to people that need support, and sometimes they're not always easy to find. Sometimes Uber and Lyft sometimes will come upon someone, and maybe that person has a lot of stuff or is not someone that they want to let in their car, and they drive off. So we've expanded our program. I mean, it's kind of unfortunate, but we are in a position now where we sometimes see the higher risk folks or the people that we think that might not be as ideal for the 2-in-1 systems, and we go out there and then we will transport them to shelters. The other big component here is we're rebalancing at night if we're starting to see shelters become full. But I think you could see this nuance, and I always thought this was a fascinating chart, is our busiest hour is midnight to 1 a.m. I mean, these are overnight in the middle of the night. They're not at 8 p.m. As much. I thought it interesting how much it tailors off during the course of the day as well. But during that February 2025 event, which was not our biggest event, we did 480 total rides. So that's a lot of people we're moving into shelters. And I also wanted to very much commend the team that worked this. They're really, really committed. And if anybody's looking to sort of volunteer and maybe shelter operations isn't right for you, this is sort of another great way that people that work for the county could sort of volunteer and support us during severe weather. So next slide. All right, finally, here we go. Rachel.
Good morning. Thanks, Chris. I always love being your sidekick. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Chair, Commissioners. My name is Rachel Pearl. I use she and her pronouns. I'm currently the Interim Director for Department of County Human Services, and for less than 2 more weeks, I am the Interim Director for Preschool and Early Learning. I'm not celebrating, you're celebrating. I just want to say it's always lovely to see all of your faces, and I just continue to appreciate the advocacy that you provide for this community. And, want to also extend my gratitude for my colleague, Chris, as much as I joke about being his sidekick. I very much appreciate how he advocates in our partnership with MCM and HSD in this very critical life-saving work that we do related to severe weather response. And so just want to continue to appreciate doing this work together. So thanks, Chris. So DCHS is the emergency support function number 6 lead for the county. So that's mass care, sheltering. So when there's declared an emergency, our tiny but mighty, shout out to our ESF 6 team, is responsible for shelter operations during those events. So the work is complex, dynamic, and challenging to plan for. So as Chris has been describing, there's a lot of different things to think about, a lot of moving parts, a lot of changes, and the ability to respond when things don't go the way that you anticipate them is really important as we navigate this. So this team every year starts off by leading the planning assumption process, where we look deeply at past events, looking at data, current assumptions based on populations, homeless counts, and also looking at what we had in terms of our peak numbers and past activations and weather patterns. So there's a lot of conversations that go into that. And for the last few years, collectively, we've had an average of 11 days or nights of activation with a peak average of around 1,000 guests. But we have seen a steady increase in the actual peak numbers of each activation. So as Chris mentioned, planning for 1,300, but also being able to adjust when something happens at a particular site is always part of the plan. And this year, planning has been a little bit different because we've been in conversations with the city, but still trying to push forward with planning on our end, depending on what the outcome of those conversations looked like. So, when we're thinking about, operating in the way that we have historically in the past few years, we have to look at geographical perspectives as well as those rebalancing. So that could be for a lot of reasons. So rebalancing could be if a particular site fills up really fast, how do we ensure that we are seeing that coming, preparing for that early before it actually gets to capacity, and starting to work with our partners at 211, our partners in transportation, to make sure that we're sending folks to a site that actually has capacity. But rebalancing can also be if we have an issue at a particular site and we need to make some adjustments. So thinking about what will that look like if that comes about. So, there's a lot of work and partnership as it relates to facilities. So our DCHS team works very closely with MCM around facilities and making sure that we have adequate preparation and planning, and making sure that we have locations at all sites that we need, because it is many of these activations, obviously, as Chris has mentioned as well, the roads are difficult to drive on, and so we want to really ensure that we're not having folks travel far distances to get into a space that's safe for them. Next slide, please. So part of the responsibility for DCHS is related to staffing and recruitment. So staffing is a really critical factor in an emergency response. It requires continuing to set up staff and volunteers for success through robust trainings and engagement during blue skies. So this is really challenging work. Oftentimes, as Chris kind of joked about, but we have folks like stepping into these spaces that don't do this work all the time. And so it's really, really important that we're providing them with information, training, and what to do in different situations. And we've been continuing to improve our training year over year, adding some different components, doing some, we added a component this year that includes a lot of role plays for folks to really engage with so that they can practice the skills and navigate de-escalating when folks who are already experiencing a lot of trauma in their lives by navigating living unsheltered, then have to leave an environment and it becomes it's a life-threatening and emergency, so they need to get inside. So you have like layers of what people are navigating and really wanting to be able to create as much as we can a trauma-informed environment where people know how to respond. So we know that staffing just is a continued scope of work for us as we navigate really long activations. So that's what we saw a couple years ago when we went into like 7 days of 24 hours. It's a really big strain on our staffing pool and our ability to like keep things staffed. So we've been continuing to work on how do we expand the amount of people who are prepared and ready to do this work and willing to do this work. So that's both county staff, obviously city employees as well. We've worked with net volunteers in the past also, but just general community members who are interested in being part of those activations, making sure that we're providing them with training opportunities as well. So we also have what is DCHS also oversees the ESF lead support role. So that ESF 6 lead support role is a 24-hour position that is the phone line that picks calls, so person in charge at a shelter call if something's going on. So that could be an emergency event, something, a situation where they need additional support. It could be that they're out of supplies. It could be that they have toilets overflowing. I mean, there's a lot of different things that folks are calling. They may have had a family show up at a site and they need help figuring out how to navigate that process and figure out where folks should go. So that became really challenging when it was one person answering those calls when we had 14 sites in activation. So we have expanded and changed our call system to include what's called like a hunt call system, and included additional shifts per, additional folks working each shift so that multiple people can answer those calls. What we didn't want is for someone to be sort of in a crisis and go to voicemail, right? So we've changed some of those ways in which we structure the ESF 6 lead situation as well. And then we've also done a lot of recruitment and training around that role to have additional folks who can do that, because especially when you're now adding multiple people per shifts, then you need more folks who can operate a 24-hour function. We've also, in the last year and a half, added an on-call person in charge role at the county, so to increase our capacity for having person in charge folks in shelters who are trained and prepared. And we have a cadre of 15 folks who are sort of actively engaged throughout the year through Blue Sky, so from our outreach events, but also our training so that they're prepared to work in shelters. And that's really actually supported us a lot when we've had gaps in some shifts. Being able to pull in those on-call folks as well has really helped us to not have issues with staffing. And recruitment, ongoing recruitment is just critical, and we work with county communications, so shout out to Paul Park, who does an incredible job in helping us. We have a volunteer webpage. We work with department leadership to promote staff participation and really and continue to think about how we remove barriers from folks in participating in these activations. And just want to extend my personal gratitude to all the county staff who do this work and step into these spaces and really provide this life-saving measure for our community. We also utilize Wednesday Wire and Manager Monthly to get information out throughout the year and across the county. Next slide, please. And Blue Sky outreach has become another pretty critical part of what our team does during Blue Sky. So we are tabling events, attending fairs, doing national night outs, making sure that we're sharing information for community members, both on how to keep themselves and their households safe, but also opportunities for them to volunteer and participate in some of these activations as well. And that's been really successful for our team. Remaining prepared is just like an ongoing effort. So we participate in lead trainings and workshops throughout the year, making sure that we're improving our own practices, really solidifying our partnerships and supporting the learning and engagement of staff and community members. Next slide, please. So we talked a little bit about this, but we have a volunteer webpage and a Commons page that allows for folks to engage throughout the year. So it's great to be able to point folks to that if they say, I'd really like to be involved. There's a process. They can ask for more information, attend an informational session, and then if it's something they want to participate in, then they can get pulled into trainings and be adequately prepared to participate. We also have recognized over the last couple of years that we really need a more robust volunteer management system. We've often used Sign Up Genius, and we need some more functionality in our volunteer management system. So we identified Better Impact as the tool that we will use moving forward. And our teams have been collaboratively working on a build out, and we will anticipate doing some mock activation signups in spring of this year. And next slide, please. All right, I think that's it. That's all we got.
Well, that was a lot, but thank you guys so much. It was really good to get such an in-depth overview of what the work is looking like this year and everything that's been going on to prepare us for what might come this winter. All right, I'll go to the board for any questions that they have for you around this or any comments, and we'll start with Commissioner Jones-Dixon.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Director Pearl and Director Voss. And we will land this plane as it pertains to identifying a location out in East Multnomah County. I really appreciate just the level of intentionality as far as working with the city of Portland and just the thinking, how can we use their 24/7 shelters? I don't have any questions. A lot of the questions that I've asked throughout the year, it seems like it's been being implemented, or it's felt through the presentation specifically about like what's happening and how are we tooling up volunteers and just the overall experience that our neighbors are having when they're in our care. So I'm supportive and looking forward to supporting just moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Brim Edwards.
Appreciate the presentation, and I especially appreciate that it's being made in a public setting. As you know, since you were here, during the really severe weather event we had when I first got on the commission, at that time, the partnership with the city, I would describe it as frayed. And I want to acknowledge today the very significant improvements. I was critical of the county's response and the city's lack of partnership with us, and I feel like staff has really looked at places of how we could improve our system in like two specific ways. One, again, this the fraying of the sort of partnership with the city, and the city sort of like, this is the county's thing. And I think in the presentation and the plans that you put together really showed sort of the robustness of the partnership with the city of Portland, which is very much needed, not just in terms of the facilities, and I think really effectively sort of drafting behind some of their facilities and shelters that we now have available, but also the staffing component. When the county was shouldering that all by itself, which seemed like all by itself, when we got into these extended weather events, it was a real challenge for the county to continue to provide the sort of 24/7 ongoing sort of supply of people who could staff the shelters. So I'm very much appreciative that you've pulled the city of Portland back into sort of being our partners. And then the second, and I know this was a change that was made last year, but I just want to again acknowledge that having that flexibility in the thresholds, I think it shows the county has the ability to sort of evolve and be nimble under changing conditions. And what we had at the end of that very severe weather event that lasted multiple days, the shelters were closing, and yet, and somewhat based on the thresholds, but if you were, depending on where you were, the conditions were still very, very harsh for somebody who didn't have anywhere else to go. So I appreciate that the county has this more flexible definition that allows the judgment of county leadership to make adjustments of not just rigidly following thresholds. And again, I appreciate the having the presentation on a good weather day, because those are the times that we should be having those conversations with our community, when we should be recruiting volunteers and training everyone so that we're ready to go on those days that we know are going to be coming before us in the future. So really thanks to both of you and the extended county team, and to all the county staff that, although it's not their job, raises their hands and offers to provide support to our community during severe weather events. So thanks.
Thank you.
And I thank the chair for just your leadership, because I know you sort of got handed like the relationship with the city and sort of some of the other standards that you really significantly move the relationship, and also what's actually happening on the ground. So thanks.
Thank you for that. And I will say, I do want to just compliment Mayor Wilson and his commitment to this really being a partnership, and the way that he's really leaned into this work too. And I have been pleased with the way that the conversations have been going with the city. So it's been really good work. Commissioner Singleton.
Oh, how quickly we forget our history around here sometimes. It used to be the city's responsibility to do this just a short 10 years ago. So I am also glad that they're back at the table to partner. I think I just want to ask Chris, I think one of the pieces on the flexibility that you shared, that still is incorporating frontline voice, right? I think when I was here, we had a situation where the snow was exceptionally wet and heavy, and tents had collapsed and people didn't have gear. So we were able to stay open an extra day for that kind of ability to get people into some sort of safety when they were going back outside. Does that sort of conduit still exist?
Every event is so different, and so we sometimes have to take a different approach. And you're right, there have been times where we've provided more gear after an event. There was specifically that January 2024 event. East County was in far worse shape than West County, so we opened up locations that were still shelters just in that. So I think that we talk about these topics, and sometimes people may think of it as a whole county as well, but I think sometimes we've got to see, is there something unique going on? Last winter Corbett had a water issue just in the immediate of our, so these are all factors. Like, everything has to be part of the conversation, and I really appreciate the team that gets together, understanding that those conversations aren't always easy. And it's HSD, it's the city. We have information from sort of sometimes the ground crews, is like, what are they seeing in the field that will also sort of change our approach to. So information from the hospitals, what are we seeing from slips and falls and injuries, all of this comes into play, and ultimately how we make a decision. It's not easy, but we've still put ourselves in a position where we want to be there, and we understand we've got to be there during the highest risk days.
Thank you. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to add one thing that I feel like has been really helpful in how we demonstrate that flexibility is around evaluating like closing times in the morning, because sometimes we need more time to evaluate if actually the forecast is correct. So I think there was like heavy reliance in the past on like forecasts being accurate. And we know that as with climate change, like forecasts become less and less reliable. And so I think our flexibility around pushing out closing times so we have time to adjust has been a really helpful strategy as well to respond to those types of situations that you're referencing.
Wonderful, thank you. I know, I heard you talk a little bit about East County, and you mentioned sometimes like they have completely different weather, and so we open out there and not in other parts of the county. And I see they're not part of the unified command, but you have a separate regular conversation with East County and making sure that we've got not just locations, but we get HSD outreach and all those other components happening as well.
Absolutely, and I was out to dinner with the future director of emergency management of Gresham just last Friday, so we're pretty close, and I think you all know who that is. Alice Bush, who is going to be taking over the Gresham emergency management position. So yes, always, and I do want to note that they are on our calls as well, and often will acknowledge and recruit staff as well. There's a different funding component there, but Gresham and all of our small cities are also part of these conversations.
Thank you. I just have one request that when we're evaluating some of the city sites to do, to convert to 24 hours, that we pay attention to restrooms as well. I didn't see that on the list. I call it out because I know at least one site is using porta potties, and I don't think that's an acceptable restroom facility for overnight only, let alone 24-hour sheltering. So if we can just make sure that we're attending to that. And do we have TriMet this year also offering support?
So there's two areas where TriMet often supports us. One, when the chair declares a state of emergency, if people don't have that resource, they can ride TriMet for free, and that is part of their rules now. They've got an admin rule that sort of approaches that, so we're really glad. Last year, if you remember, we closed in February, and we kind of staggered our closure and requested TriMet buses to sort of be available as well at some of our larger locations that would then bring people to sort of the transportation centers. And I thought that actually worked well for 2 reasons. I thought the staggering of closures helped us sometimes address a limited resource, both our vans and now TriMet, so they help us out there as well. And there's actually been one event where we were also able to engage a Lyft, and we're always trying to engage more Lyft because we know that that's one of the toughest things for us to do. But a lot of their ability to support us in that area depends on the time and what other competing asks they have. But they are part of our conversations. They certainly have worked with us, and like I said, last year they added buses and bus loops, and it was nice to see that addition.
That's awesome. I think lastly, I would just say, please share any information about training. I'd love to get it out early so that volunteers are engaging in that before we hit an event. So if you have particular social media posts or particular messages you want us to use, just please send that my way. And I'm just so appreciative of how far we've come. I was sharing with Commissioner Moyer that when I was at the City of Portland, it was me making this decision by myself and saying things like, I feel cold, so I think we should open. So I really appreciate that it's actually a system that we've been able to develop and put in place. So thank you for all the hard work.
That's unbelievable. Commissioner Moyer.
Yeah, I just have a couple of questions with this new partnership with existing shelters, overnight-only shelters. What is the policy about people who have previously been excluded from shelters in an emergency weather situation?
So first I want to say we're still ironing out, so like I could talk in big picture. And I also don't speak for the City of Portland, but I can tell you this. Within our conversations, they know and understand that during severe weather that the risk changes, that excluding someone during severe weather is very different than sometimes excluding someone when it's 75 degrees outside. I do not control their policies. We control our policies, but I wanted to let you know that is a topic that has come up. We know and understand, and I believe that they know and understand that the risks change when it comes to our policies. I'll let Rich talk a little more, but we provide a lot of flexibility here. And sometimes it also means that we have someone that might not work out in a specific location, and sometimes we've moved them to another place just because we've thought it necessary and the risks were such that excluding them was not sort of the right approach. I don't know if you want to talk a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate the question, Commissioner. It's been a very high priority for our team around making sure that the understanding is that this is a life-saving measure, that we are opening because it becomes life-threatening for folks to remain outdoors, which means that we need to have very low barrier thresholds for people being able to come in to those spaces. And so we're continuing to have those conversations with the city about what that looks like for us, how we navigate that, how we support person in charge folks when they're having a challenge with a particular guest, and how to ensure that we have a successful outcome where they can remain in one of our sites, and what those strategies are. That's a lot of what we train around, and making sure that there's successful outcomes when someone is like just struggling inside of one of our spaces.
And I know that we keep in contact with our hospital partners. I'm not sure to what degree we have an understanding with them about who is or is not appropriate to put on a shuttle. I volunteered doing transport, which was a great experience. I recommend people trying that one. And our friends at Good Sam repeatedly called for transportation for people who clearly could not have articulated that they wanted to go to shelter and were in a state of post-acute care, but needing a significant level of follow-up care. And I don't know what our policies are around like what is and is not an appropriate transfer to a shelter that is probably going to be primarily staffed by volunteers who may not have the background to deal with a medical need or other related issues. Have we ever had those kind of conversations where, you know, I understand hospitals do not want to turn their waiting areas into shelters, and yet there are situations in which somebody's not ready to be in a congregate setting. I didn't know if we'd ever had explicit conversations with our hospital partners on that issue.
There was one instance I do remember, I believe it was 2 seasons ago, and we made it very clear on 2 components when I believe they were trying to transport someone, and then I remember getting a call like, hey, what do we do here? And it seemed like the person didn't potentially wanted to go to one of our locations. And so the hospital wanted a release, but they didn't want to go to one of our shelters. And so there were 2 things that I told our team. I said, we need to make sure that 2 things happen. If someone is being transported out of the hospital, they one need to be able to acknowledge what's going on, and that sometimes is not always an easy thing. And 2, they have to understand where they're going and be willing to go there. We're not taking people that are not willing to go. We're not quite in the same position to evaluate their ability to leave, although I do think in the past I think there's been a situation where we've sent someone back before where like this person's not appropriate for a shelter setting. But I wanted to let you know that we have communicated with sort of especially the PTU and some of those transportation groups, as well as 211, who can and cannot come. And we communicate with the hospitals as well, but I recognize as well that they sometimes evaluate in a little different situation. And I also want to commend you, you're asking the tough ones today. But we appreciate these are things that over the last few years we've had to address, and we have sort of drawn a line. It is not always easy. These are sometimes difficult situations, but I do like to think that within that conversation, the hospitals are only transporting people that know and understand that they're going to a shelter.
They also handed me that gentleman's weapon, which was wild. Oh yeah, that happened. I called. We had a chat, Legacy, but that does lead to a second question of, I guess it's the third question. What have we agreed upon staffing levels with the city in these situations that might be different than their current staffing level?
I still want to say this. Those are the city locations, and so obviously they've got staffing levels, I'm sure much like we have sort of staffing ratios that we use when we sort of recruit. We're not dictating their staffing levels for them. It's something we could sort of have further communication with, but I believe if they feel confident in those staffing levels. I also want to acknowledge this other piece. It is possible, and Rachel and I have had this conversation, it's like, what happens when one of their contractor believes they're going to be able to staff and cannot staff? And so we've walked down that pathway where there would be a mutual agreement that we would both recruit simultaneously in the county and the city to sort of, back up that contractor that might not be able to sort of support that mission. I also be remiss, I think it's interesting that a lot of the contractors have used the word, or in the sheets, confident, that they are confident that they would be able to support this. And it was something that was built into the contracts with the city contractors. So we're not sure to what extent that might happen. We'd like to think that'd be zero, but we're also have had conversations just in case we do need to sort of backfill because a city contractor is in a situation where they cannot provide the appropriate level of support.
Great, thank you.
All right, just appreciate all of the work. I do want to just close up here. You know, we are in the conversations about what this winter could look like, but also, you know, during the summer as heat becomes an issue, and that we've seen that definitely over the last several years. But I will say, whether it's winter or summer, whatever the event is, county employees really step up to take these shifts, to sign up, to fill the roles that we need. It is great to see where we've come with the City of Portland in terms of their participation in this work and their, you know, partnership in this. And Commissioner Singleton, we do talk, you know, we have had conversations where we pointed out that this was formerly a City of Portland back, you know, a few years ago. That was a point. I will say that because the important thing is, like, again, I'm always impressed by our employees and our ability to step into this work, understanding that, you know, this compassionate response that we do, this ability to open up and make sure that no one is turned away during these weather events really makes the difference between life and death and dangerous weather for our community members who are the most vulnerable. And I really think that's a true reflection of not just our county values, but just the way that our employees show up every single day. So whether it's in a shelter or in service to our community, I just want to thank them. And Rachel and Chris, I want to thank you and your teams who are really focused on this work. I mean, it is day after day, 5 a.m. to, you know, all hours of the day as we are making sure shelters get staffed and we're responding to things. I know how intense that these activations are, and I just want to thank you for all of the work in really good planning, but also in the ways that you have shown up consistently to serve our community in the best way possible under really challenging conditions. So thank you so much for your leadership, and thanks for, you know, all of the year-round work to make sure we're ready to serve our community. So thank you. That concludes our regular board agenda, so thank you both very much for the presentation. We now have time for final announcements, non-agenda comments from the board, so I want to open it up to commissioners to see who has anything to discuss today. Commissioner
Did you guys miss me last week? I have a couple of items. Thank you, Chair. I just want to uplift today some of the devastation that communities endured last week at the hands of ICE and this authoritative federal regime. Too many Black and brown people whose name and stories go unreported lose their life while being arrested in detention centers or deported to hostile places. Only their families know what happened to them and the way they have suffered. In LA on New Year's Day, Keith Porter was shot and killed by an off-duty ICE agent. In Minneapolis, we all well know Renee Good was fatally shot by ICE agents. We had 2 community members shot by ICE agents in Portland. Another was shot just yesterday in Minneapolis. Enough is enough. And I'm not being hyperbolic when I speak on this issue. Black and brown people are being disappeared, seriously injured, and dying at the hands of this regime and their mass law enforcement. I am grateful that we have so many organizations that have stepped up to do amazing work, including rapid response, food and rent assistance, as well as transportation needs. And the folks doing this helpful work should not fear for physical harm for doing so. Last month, we took board action on our resolution and budget allocation. I just want to appreciate staff. I know they're grinding on some work to bring forward an ordinance, and I just want to ask that you be bold in what you imagine and bring forward to the board, because the community deserves that. I wanted to uplift a couple of items from the situation report that we received yesterday. I think we all hear about the violent actions that happen around immigration enforcement, but additional actions that are happening include impacts like post-admission refugee re-verification and referring some of those cases to ICE. We have reports of DACA recipients and asylum recipients receiving ICE check-in notices for background checks and fingerprinting. These sorts of actions are just another component of sowing fear in this community. I do want to highlight as well that some of our legal action and the legal action of our communities is starting to also push back on the regime. And so we have seen, at least with the HUD continuum of care NOFO, I think it's important to just highlight they were blocked from that devastating and short-sighted policy change. So I think more updates will come, but that is one example of where the legal strategy has been effective in pushing back. So we would have more time. They may still make these policy changes, but it gives us some more time to plan. I think we had heard from the department about hundreds of households in danger of losing their permanent housing. I also wanted to speak to some of recent events with our City of Portland colleagues, and just say that I'm appalled yet not surprised by the texts that were directed at my colleagues at the city. People of color in leadership and elected positions know all too well how common this is. I have faced this type of behavior throughout my career and know firsthand how the expectation of being calm in the face of oppression is the extra work that we are forced to do. But just because we are used to this behavior doesn't mean that we have to tolerate it or be subjected to it, and I stand in solidarity with my colleagues. As an elected leader, I know there are those who are not elected that hold power and advise others what to do. I hope those around these individuals take note of what they said and think about the relationships they have with the people involved and others who hold the same views. On a bit of a lighter note, I want to appreciate the work and advocacy of our Office of Sustainability that they've done to really help secure utility shutoff moratoria. That's been really impactful in the community, and we don't often have a lot of opportunities right now, it feels, to give shout outs, so I wanted to shout out and appreciate that win that they've had. And then just lastly, I think we talked about reimagining justice in Cully earlier today. We actually had a legal clinic yesterday, and I wanted to bring it up because we had lawyers there to work on immigration, expungement, eviction expungement, bench warrants, waiving tickets and fine, and doing debt negotiations with landlords. We had over 257 people RSVP, and the attorneys were only able to see about 85 cases. I do want to thank NAYA, the Metropolitan Public Defenders, and my team for working hard on this event, but I think it highlights the need in this community, and so I hope that we will continue to seek opportunities to fund legal clinics, and I will definitely be bringing forward something in our budget process, just seeing how the need is far outpacing the services that we have. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Anyone else? Commissioner Brammer.
Yeah, just I wanted to just raise up the threat that President Trump raised the other day when he was in Detroit, saying that he was going to deny grants and funding to jurisdictions that have sanctuary policies. And, this is yet once again an attempt to threaten and bully local jurisdiction to change their policies, to bend their values. As a state that has sanctuary status since 1987, and then of course at the local jurisdictions, the measures being taken around sanctuaries status, and then our most recent strengthening. This may be another time in which we have to join together with both other local jurisdictions and the state to defend ourselves. In many cases, those are congressionally appropriated funds that they're saying they're going to deny us. We all pay taxes to the federal government, and so using the tactic of we're going to punish you or try and make you change your values, I think once again we're going to need to stand up together with other jurisdictions and say that just like when they tried to send in the National Guard or take away SNAP benefits from our community, that will stand united in opposition to that. But, it's just another attack on us that we need to stand strong and together.
Thank you, Commissioner. Appreciate that. Commissioner Jones-Dixon?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Chair, and thank you, colleagues, for just the remarks. I woke up this morning, I was reminded that today is Dr. King's birthday, and Dr. King is a hero of mine. I've been following his just the movement over the last 15 years on my journey. So I want to encourage everybody on just this week and even on Monday, there's a lot of different events and celebrations going on. 2 days ago, the city of Gresham, Sue Piazza, and Council President, oh my goodness, Keith Bia, keep on forgetting her name, and Ricky Ruiz, we came together to just listen directly from the community around just what's happening specifically in East Multnomah County with immigration and what have you. And I left that meeting encouraged, hearing 50 to 60 people just expressing the truths and the realities as far as the overall impacts, not only from how we lead or just our overall silence, and just how the government, how they're enforcing the quote-unquote laws, and then they had direct ask as well. So I just want to encourage this body and also our staff as far as we're modeling, we're doing the right thing as far as showing up and responding within our spheres of influence. And then also, I really challenge everyone to reach out to the Republicans as well here in Oregon, and really working on expressing just the overall concerns and direct ask, because they're talking directly to the administration as well. I think we all know and understand that we're in this together. Yeah, so I'll just leave it there. But I really, really appreciate this board. I appreciate our community. And lastly, we need to create more opportunities for folks to come in and share and carry the load, because not one person can do it by themselves. So thank you again. And as always, we're on mission to build America's favorite county. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner. I just have two short things today. One, I wanted to congratulate newly elected Portland City Council President Jamie Dunphy. As someone who has lived in East Portland for 18 years in the Hazelwood neighborhood, I'm really excited to see East Portland leadership elevated to this important role and position. I really look forward to working with him in this next year to collaborate on tackling some of those, our biggest issues that we work with every day. And I did want to thank Councilor Alana Purtle-Guiney for leading and stewarding the Portland City Council as the first president of the new council. I've appreciated my working relationship and partnership with her, and I look forward to that ongoing work as she continues to represent North and Northeast Portland. I just also wanted to acknowledge that the upcoming weekend is MLK Junior weekend, and I know that there are a lot of events in the community that I'm sure many of us will be participating in, and just looking forward to the activities to celebrate. I think especially in these times, the work, the message, and the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. is more important than ever. So thank you so much. That concludes today's regular board meeting. There being no further business, we are adjourned.